Unfortunately, here at Moxie Corp, we have a strict no 2 weeks of rank slop in a row policy. For this reason, you'll need to wait until next week to watch my ranking every bench in Lumio City tier list video. Instead, this week, we'll be taking a step back from Pokemon Legends ZA and checking out moves that haven't seen the light of day since the last time we visited Kalos. And this will only be a brief break from Legends ZA. I mean, the DLC drops in like 2 weeks. They really aren't giving me any breathing room here. Anyways, today I'll be taking a look at just straight up strange Pokemon moves that are so situational and specific that I guarantee you there's going to be at least 3 moves in this video that you've just never heard of. But not only will I be going over these strange moves, which have mostly been removed from the game due to sheer lack of applications, but for fun, I'll present a hypothetical situation where these moves might actually be useful. Mostly. Some of these are just going to be like real stretches. Anyways, if you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, check out the Patreon, become a YouTube channel member, hype the video, do whatever. Let's just begin. No, not the ability Synchronoise. This is Synchronoise. It's very different.
We don't even look the same!
Introduced in Generation 5, it's a 120 base power special psychic type attack. That's it. No downsides. Perfect. Just perfect accuracy, no recoil, nothing. Okay, you got me. There is a catch. This move only works if the target is the same type as the user. This is already one of the most useless moves on paper due to the fact that this is a psychic type attack, meaning in order to get max damage on the move, the user would also need to be psychic type. And that means that, at minimum, the opponent is going to only take neutral damage from it, or at worst, resist it. But it gets even worse when you start to dig into the details. A decent number of Pokemon learn Synchronoise, but basically all of them are either psychic types or mediocre special attackers. Eevee also learns this move, meaning that Umbreon has the move by extension, which is hilarious since Umbreon is a pure dark type. This move will only ever not fail against dark type Pokemon when Umbreon's the one using it, but that doesn't matter as dark types are immune to psychic type attacks. So this move is literally just useless on Umbreon. But maybe it can be used to hit fighting or poison types, right? Well, tough luck, there are no poison types who learn this move, so you need to find some other workaround via a poison type sharing another type with the user. And the only fighting type to learn the move is Gallade, who, even in its mega form, has a whopping 65 special attack stat. So yeah, maybe just Psycho Cut the fighting type in front of you instead. This move is practically useless and was removed from Generation 8, but had it not been removed, it would technically let Vaporeon and Jolteon hit Urshifu and Iron Hands for super effective damage. I mean, this is technically possible in National decks, I guess, but for now, Synchronoise is just going to go down in history as one of the most useless Pokemon moves ever, despite the high base power. This channel is partnered with Gamersupps. If you want to support my work and get great tasting drinks, you can order Gamersupps through my link in the description down below or with code MoxieBoosted at checkout for 10% off. Gamersupps is a caffeinated product that I recommend only to my 18+ viewers, but my link will send you to their caffeine-free product section just in case. Every product purchased through my link supports my channel financially, so I'd really appreciate the support. Now back to the video. Ion Deluge is a priority move introduced in Generation 6, which simply turns all normal type attacks used on the turn into electric type attacks. Currently, this move no longer exists, but the effect is still present in the games via Zeraora. Zeraora's signature move is Plasma Fists, which is a 100 base power physical electric type move that turns all normal type attacks following it on that turn into electric type attacks. This combos well with its ability Volt Absorb, as it effectively gives Zeraora a normal type immunity as long as Plasma Fists is used first. Ion Deluge didn't see much usage, however it was possible to combo Ion Deluge with a partner normal type attacker for some niche techs, like in this example of an application. In 2014, there was a team ran by Angel Miranda who used Ion Deluge Pachirisu to wall Mega Kangaskhan with Volt Absorb, and it would even let Hydreigon take resisted damage as it was a dragon type, while also allowing Hydreigon to use Hyper Beam to Oko Azumarill, as that would turn Hyper Beam into an electric type move. It was a really interesting tech, and since then, Ion Deluge really just hasn't seen any application. Okay, this is arguably already one of the worst moves of all time in concept, because the time that it takes to get the move to be worth using is just way too long. You'll see what I mean in a second here. This is one of the rare moves in the game that gets worse the more PP it has. Trump Card is a special normal type attack with 5 PP. If you PP up it, you're gonna have a bad time.
Ow!
The base power of this move increases the lower the PP of the move is after it's used, and the scaling is just atrocious. At 4 PP, it's a 40 base power move. At 3 PP, it's a 50 base power move. At 2 PP, it's a 60 base power move. At 1 PP, it's an 80 base power move. And finally, at 0 PP, on your final possible usage of the move, it's 200 base power. Okay, so let's just think about this. It's a normal type attack that gets better the more it's used, but it's only kinda worth using once you have one or no uses left on it. And the majority of Pokemon that learn the move are not normal type, meaning that most of them won't get the stab multiplier on it. As far as I can tell, the one and only true application of this move is to win the 1v1 in the Volt Absorb Jolteon mirror, granted they don't have any non-electric type attacks, which isn't too far out there as Jolteon basically has no coverage. But if you ever find yourself in the Jolteon mirror, I don't know, just let me know what happened to get you there, because I've never seen that in my life. Okay, this one is really strange. You know Seismic Toss? You know, that fighting type move that always deals the same amount of damage as your level? Well, imagine if it had RNG baked into it. Yes, Psywave is just Gambler's Seismic Toss. It's a psychic type attack which calculates the damage dealt by choosing a random number between 1 and 100 and uses that as the variable R in the equation, the level of the user times 10R plus 50 over 100. In short, the user will deal damage between 50% of their level and 150% of their level. So at level 50, it can deal between 25 and 75 damage, and at level 100, it can deal between 50 and 150 damage. You might be wondering just how good this is, and frankly, it's not incredible. Seismic Toss is far more consistent, and even if you get the maximum roll on Psywave, the only Pokemon that you can one-shot with it is a 10 HP IV Diglett at level 50 or a 20 HP IV Diglett at level 100. So, pretty niche, right? That being said, there are some applications for it. Defensive Pokemon like Bronzong would occasionally run it over a different Psychic type attack since it had a higher potential for damage on sets that didn't want to invest much in their special attack stats. It also had the potential to 2-hit KO a decent number of Pokemon if you got 2 high rolls. The move no longer exists though, since it's been replaced by Body Press as far as damage options go on defensive Pokemon. Me First is a move which no longer exists as of Generation 8. However, prior to then, it was a pretty interesting concept. Me First allowed for the user to use whatever attack the opponent was about to use, granted they were faster. If they moved second, the move would always fail. Since you're kind of taking what move you use out of your hands and putting it into your opponent's, you did get a 50% boost in power to the move that you would use to make up for that risk. Not many Pokemon were capable of effectively using this attack, and the variance in what opponents you might face made it too much of a risk for most Pokemon. But a Pokemon which was able to occasionally use this move was Pheromosa. Since Pheromosa has a high 137 attack and 137 special attack stat, it didn't matter what attack it would copy as both of its offensive stats were quite high, and its 151 base speed meant that it would also be able to outrun practically any Pokemon. While not common, it was a really goofy and fun tech that would be used on Pheromosa occasionally, and it would even allow it to one-shot Primal Groudon with Precipice Blade sometimes. You know, if the move connected.
Me first!
Okay, this one's really fun because this is actually a signature move that was removed. Powder was the signature move of Vivillon. This was a priority bug-type move that would cause the target to take a quarter of their health and damage while blocking the move entirely if they used a fire-type attack. This one is maybe the most slapstick move of all time because it just lets Vivillon beat Scarf Eruption users or Pokemon like Scarf Chi-Yu. That might be the only real application, but the better fire-type attackers are in metagames, the better that this move gets, or at least the better the move would get if it were even in the games anymore. There was a brief moment where Scarf Chi-Yu was strong enough that Vivillon would actually be kind of a cool counter to Koraidon Sun, but unfortunately the move doesn't exist in Gen 9.
Wake up to reality.
Miracle Eye is simply a Psychic type attack that makes it so the target Dark type Pokemon is no longer immune to Psychic type attacks. Technically speaking, this move can be applied in most games as long as you predict the Dark type to switch in on the Psychic type attack. This move no longer exists though, but it would be used to allow for Expanding Force users to hit Dark types like Incineroar or Urshifu. But most of the Pokemon who learned this move had either Fighting or Fairy coverage to hit Dark type Pokemon, so it was broadly just not worth it. Behold, Rototiller. Surely a move named after a garden appliance would be useful, right? Well, this is just a move that caused all grounded grass-type allies to have their attack stats raised, so sorry to Rotom-Mow, I guess. This move basically had no application since moves like Howl and Coaching would fill the niche in future games. It was removed entirely as it was just a more restrictive version of both of these moves. But if you wanted a reason to use it, I guess technically you could use Rototiller Tapu Bulu to raise like partner Kartana's attack stat and itself at the same time. I don't know. And then we have Flower Shield here, which is the next entry. Flower Shield is arguably just as useless as Rototiller since it has the exact same concept but raises the grass type's defense stats. So, I don't know, Cherrim can raise its and Kartana's defense stat at the same time? Ooh, very cool. Okay, Beat Up is actually a really interesting move since it actually still exists today and continues to have applications in competitive Pokemon, even in modern formats. This is a Dark-type physical attack that has existed since Generation 2. How it works is each Pokemon on the team will get a hit in, and the power of each individual hit is determined by the equation base power equals base attack stat of the party member divided by 10 plus 5. So, if you were to use the move as intended, one of the best users would be a powerful physical Dark-type attacker with a bunch of other powerful attackers in the back, or at least a fast technician user like Ambipom in the front with a bunch of other physical attackers in the back. However, this move is almost never used to deal any real damage today, and it's historically been used to activate abilities like Justified on Pokemon like Terrakion, or Stamina on Mudsdale and Archaludon. But the Pokemon that's currently most infamous for its usage of Beat Up is Mousehold, who uses it next to Annihilate to boost the power of Rage Fist to the moon and start one-shotting Pokemon, as Rage Fist's power is multiplied for every time that Annihilate is hit by a move. Oh, and here's a fun fact, in Generation 3, it was actually optimal to nickname all of your Pokemon because of the move Beat Up. Since this was before Team Preview existed, if you used Beat Up, it would reveal your entire Pokemon team to the opponent, but if you had nicknames, it would only reveal the nicknames.
Oopie Goopy, General Munchkin Man, Lil Jim Bob, and worst of all, Larry.
Purify is the signature move of Pyukumuku, a Pokemon known for having basically no way to deal any damage other than Toxic Stall or using Counter and Mirror Coat. It was kind of like a low HP variant of Wobbuffet, but with more support moves, including this move, which would cure the target Pokemon of whatever status condition they had, and then heal Pyukumuku for 50% of its HP if the status was healed. I guess Pyukumuku just like sucks out the poison, or the burn, or sleep. How do you eat sleep? I don't know. I mean, Dream Eater exists, so maybe Hypno can tell us. Now, the funny thing about Purify is that it only heals Pyukumuku if you cure a status with it, and Pyukumuku also has access to Recover, which would just always heal it. That being said, there is one reliable application for it. Technically speaking, Pyukumuku is capable of underspeeding and walling out Guts, Flame Orb, Ursaluna in Trick Room, and removing the burn to decrease its damage output. This is really goofy as Pyukumuku isn't in the game currently, and if it was, it wouldn't be super useful, but the fact that it's able to beat one of the best Pokemon in the game that's widely considered broken is actually just super funny. Teatime is the signature move of Poltegeist, not Sinistcha. I'm not sure why Sinistcha can't also use Teatime, seeing as it's another cup of tea, but I don't know, whatever. Is matcha not tea? I feel like it's tea. That said, this move just causes every Pokemon on the field to eat their berry at once. Now, there's a few applications for this, as you could force Pokemon like Incineroar to eat their berry when at full health and get rid of it before they could even heal, but the main use for this move was just gimmick teams that required a Pokemon to eat some fringe usage berry. That being said, currently Moringa Berry Garganacl is a real set that requires Garg to eat a special attack before boosting its special defense stat, but this move could be a useful tech on that sort of team, as it could make it so it just gets the special defense boost outright without having to eat a hit. Steamroller is the now removed signature move of the Scolipede line, or rather, it used to be the signature move of that line until it was inexplicably given to Golem and Guzzlord in Generation 7. This was just a 65 base power physical bug move with a 30% chance to flinch. And to be honest, the only reason it's on this list is because I think it's really funny that only 3 Pokemon have ever learned it and they're all very round. That being said, I don't know, in applications outspeeding and flinching basically anything in the game because Speed Boost Scolipede is absurdly fast, it's just Bug-type Headbutt. Why did they give it to Guzzlord? Okay, now the real roller move. Steel Roller is actually a move that's still in the games and is actually not the easiest move to set up, but the reward is well worth it. This move was introduced in Generation 8 and is a 130 base power physical steel type attack. It would only work if one of the game's 4 terrain effects were active, and it would remove the terrain from the field after its use. Now, normally you'd think that this move was used as a counter to terrain-based teams, but in reality it's actually used in tandem with terrains to hit as often as possible. In 2024, Iron Treads would run Steel Roller next to Miraidon, since Miraidon's Hadron engine paired with Volt Switch could reset terrain every time it switched back in, and then Steel Roller Iron Treads would outspeed and KO Fairy-type Pokemon like Fluttermane, which would threaten the Miraidon, removing the terrain, and then having Miraidon switch back in to put it back on the field. With the terrain constantly being removed and set back up, it was easy to click Steel Roller over and over again for major damage, and it became a staple of Iron Tread's moveset in the format. Now, if there's a lesson to be learned from some of the moves in this video, it's that moves that buff stats for a very specific group of Pokemon are bound to be bad. Rototiller only boosting Grass-type Pokemon's attack stats is just an unnecessary limitation, but imagine a move that only boosts the stats of 7 Pokemon total. Well, that's where Gear Up comes in. Gear Up is a move only learned by Magearna and Klinklang. This move boosts the attack and special attack stats of any allied Pokemon with the abilities Plus or Minus. Mind you, Plus and Minus are already 2 awful abilities, but we won't get into that. The fact that this move is only learned by 2 Pokemon and only affects 7 Pokemon is so specific and not worth the effort that it's actually laughable. The only application I can think for it is Klinklang using Gear Up to boost Klinklang's physical attack stat at the same time that it boosts Toxtricity's special attack stat. And then they both drop to Earthquake because they're both weak to ground moves. Good game, bro. Actually, now that I think about it, every Pokemon that gets boosted by this move is weak to ground. It's just like impossible to pull off. It only took until Generation 8, but we finally got a new addition to the exploding family of moves. Now, next to Self-Destruct and Explosion, we finally had a Fairy-type variant called Misty Explosion. This is a move added in Generation 8, which was a Fairy-type 100 base power special attack that KOs the user and deals damage to everything on the field. Additionally, if Misty Train was active, the move would be boosted to 150 base power. This would be used on Pokemon like Slurpuff to set up sticky webs and then explode to prevent Rapid Spin or Defog from removing the webs in singles. But in doubles, there was a far funnier application. People would use Scarf Azumarill with Misty Explosion next to Weakness Policy Receiver Passimian, because as a fighting type, Passimian was weak to fairy moves. The Scarf Explosion Azumarill would then activate the Weakness Policy on the Passimian and knock itself out, allowing for Receiver to activate so Passimian could get the ability Huge Power. From then on out, Passimian now had a +2 physical attack stat and the ability Huge Power, multiplying its attack stat by 4, at which point it would Dynamax and sweep the team with Max Airstream, Max Knuckle, and Max Ooze. This is a really goofy application of the move, and as far as I can tell, the only time it's ever been used in doubles, but it was a really funny gimmick. Natural Gift is a move so specific that it requires a whole spreadsheet to use effectively. It's a physical attack, and its base power and type of the move depend entirely on what berry the user is holding. For example, if the user is holding a Roat berry, they'd use an 80 base power Dark type attack, and if they were holding a Cherry berry, they'd use a 60 base power Fire type attack. However, this move would also consume the berry, meaning it's a one-time coverage option. Honestly, just go with Hidden Power at that point. But literally every Pokemon in the game learned this move at one point, so if you're willing to run a berry for coverage in a draft match, just go ahead and go for it. It's kind of worth it. Smelling Salts and Wake Up Slap are normal and fighting type physical attacks respectively. At only 70 base power, these moves were pretty underwhelming, but they did have a fun little gimmick to them. If Smelling Salts was used on a paralyzed Pokemon, it would deal double damage and cure the paralysis, and Wake Up Slap would do the same thing but only for sleeping Pokemon instead. Is this ever worth running? Not really, but you could, I don't know, maybe sleep a Mega Kangaskhan and one-shot it, I guess? Venom Drench is a move that managed to survive the initial move culling of Generation 8, but then finally got cut in Generation 9. This move was introduced in Gen 6 and was a poison type status move. It would lower the attack, special attack, and speed of all poison targets. However, if the opponents weren't poisoned, the move would just do nothing. It never saw any real competitive play, but if you wanted to use it, you could have like a Toxapex set Toxic Spikes and then click Venom Drench to get sort of a super snarl against both opponents. That's basically it. I did this at one point and it was really funny, but it wasn't really worth it. So as it turns out, there's more room moves than just Trick Room. Trick Room, of course, inverts speed tiers for 5 turns, Magic Room disables all items, and Wonder Room, well, Wonder Room was interesting. It would swap every Pokemon's defense and special defense stat. Not exactly a real reason to ever be clicking this when you could just switch out your Pokemon to one with the preferred defensive stat, but if you really wanted a reason to use it, I guess it would allow for Porygon Z to Wonder Room up and then one-shot Blissey with Tri-Attack, now that it only had like a measly 10 special defense, but no one ever really used it seriously and it was just kind of a gimmick. Finally, we get to possibly the strangest trio of moves in Pokemon, being Stockpile, Swallow, and Spit Up. Introduced in Generation 3 as the signature move of the Swalot line, but also Pelipper got them, I guess. They were certainly moves, I guess. Swallow and Spit Up were entirely dependent on Stockpile. Stockpile would increase the user's defense and special defense by 1 stage up to 3 times. However, if you hit 3 Stockpiles, you can no longer use the move. Now, you have 3 options. 1, you could do nothing and enjoy your newly raised defenses. 2, you could use Swallow and recover either 25, 50, or 100% of your health, depending on how many stockpiles you set up, but then you would lose your stockpiles and probably drop to the next attack since you don't have those defenses anymore. Or 3, you could use Spit Up, possibly the funniest move in Pokemon history, which had a base power of 100 times the number of stockpiles that you set up, meaning a 3 stockpile Pokemon had a 300 base power normal type special attack. Effectively, 2 Hyper Beams at once. Wigglytuff is the normal type with the highest special attack set that actually learns this move. Do with that information what you will. Oh, hey, look, a calc, and it says that it one-shots Groudon. What do you know? These 3 moves are really funny, and the fact that running one of these moves requires that you run basically both of these moves means that it's just a really goofy gimmick that never really got off the ground, but it was still super funny. Why does this keep happening to me? Anyways, these were just some of the strangest moves in Pokemon, some of which just being a little bit better than others, but the main thing that unites all of them is the fact that they're just super weird, and a lot don't exist anymore. But am I forgetting any weird moves in Pokemon? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It means the world to me. If you want to support me further, you can check out my Patreon page or become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button below the video. This gets you sneak peeks at future videos, bonus content, and access to my supporter-only Discord server where you can hang out and team build with other community members or play in our Monday tournaments. You also see your name at the end of all my videos like all these lovely people. Special thanks to my most boosted supporters, Avatar67 and Club, for their generous pledges. Another way to support me is to check out all the videos in the playlist on screen right now. I know you'll find something in there that you'll enjoy. I also have a second channel where I talk about the current BGC metagame trends and a Twitch channel where I stream, both of which will be in the description. Or you can just tune into my YouTube live streams Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. CST. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.